Welcome to the Sober and Happy podcast, where we talk about all things recovery related, how to navigate the challenges that we'll face along the way on our journey towards our best lives, and how we could go from living a life of simply just being sober to a life where we're both sober and happy. One of my favorite quotes is something I've heard Tony Robbins say many times, which is, where your focus goes, your energy flows. You could test this theory quickly anytime you're feeling an emotion strongly. If you're currently angry, what have you focused on most of the day? It is the same reason that if we have a bad day at work, even though we may no longer be working, if we are still thinking about work, we'll continue to carry that energy into other parts of our lives. So how do we recognize this and shift our focus onto things that lift our energy rather than bring it down? Well, that's what we're going to discuss today. So buckle up. This is going to be a great episode. Welcome back. I was inspired to talk about this while listening to another podcast last week. In the podcast, the host read a poem written by Michael Josephson called What Will Matter, which I'd like to share with you. As I read this poem, I want you to think about the things that matter deeply to you, and if you're focusing on that in your life, or if your focus is on other things that matter less. Here's the poem called What Will Matter. Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, hours, or days. All of the things you collected, whether treasured or forgotten, will pass to someone else. Your wealth, fame, and temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you were owned. Your grudges, resentments, frustrations, and jealousies will finally disappear. So too, your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the track you lived on in the end. It won't matter whether you're beautiful or brilliant. Even your gender and skin color will be irrelevant. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your successes, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many will feel a lasting loss when you're gone. What will matter is not your memories, but the memories of those who loved you. What will matter is how long you'll be remembered, by whom and for what. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but of choice. Choose to live a life that matters. As I heard this poem being read, I realized how much of my life has been focused on things that do not matter, holding on to resentments from my past, seeking justice for perceived wrongs done to me, or simply being angry about circumstances out of my control. And while I was stuck in this place, I was not moving on in life. Life was going on without me, and I constantly stayed stuck. I missed opportunities for a greater future because I was focused on things that I was not letting go of. I missed opportunities for the types of relationships I desired because I was focused on how some people in my life did not treat me how I felt I deserved. The most glaring example of this revolves around my father. For most of my childhood, my father was in prison, and growing up with the dad in prison honestly sucks. And I spent much of my childhood focusing on how much that sucks. And I missed out on so much. I had a mom who did her best to fill both roles. She took me to baseball games. She played catch with me. She even filled in as a coach for my Little League team once when my coach couldn't make it. And she did an amazing job at doing all of this. But I didn't fully appreciate it then because all I could focus on was the fact that my dad should be doing all those things. I also had multiple amazing male role models in my life who constantly stepped in to fill that void of my dad not being around. One of them even still calls me son to this day. In retrospect, I was very blessed to have those men in my life. But back then, all I could think about was the fact that they weren't my dad. I never fully accepted the love that was offered to me because I was stuck in a resentment for my dad. At times, I even rejected it and resented the men who, in my eyes, were trying to replace my dad. You may be thinking, but Tim, you were just a kid. That's completely understandable. And you're right. And I am in no way judging the curly-headed little kid that just wished his dad was around. However, I can look at that as a learning experience and see where in my adult life I have also done that, and in what areas of my life today I'm still doing that. I put off drinking out of fear of losing some of my drinking buddies, while putting other friends and family through the torment of watching me destroy my life and slowly drinking myself to death. I once had an ex leave me for another person, and I spent months not only angry at both of them, but waiting for the day she would realize I was better than him, leave him, and ask for me back. The funny thing is, I was having major doubts about the relationship too, and was considering breaking it off myself. I wasn't upset we weren't together anymore. I was just pissed that in my eyes she did me wrong. I didn't want her to ask me back because I wanted to get back together with her. I wanted her to do that just so I could reject her. And it wasn't just me affected by that resentment I held on to. There was a period of months that instead of being fully present with my friends and enjoying each other's company, all I did was complain about her over and over and over again. I'm not saying I shouldn't have gone to my friends for support, but I went way beyond that point and was just simply complaining about the same things nonstop without wanting to do anything to move on. If we go back to the quote at the beginning of the podcast, which says, "Where your focus goes, your energy flows," think about when you are deep in a resentment. How draining is that? How much energy do you have to focus on other things that matter in your life? And I'm not saying that the things that happen to you do not matter. I'm not saying that your feelings do not matter either. Those all are very valid. I'm just saying that holding on to those things is often what keeps us stuck. What if you focused your energy on healing instead of revenge? What if you focused on the things that you have in life instead of the things other people have that you don't? What if you focused on working towards the career you want instead of complaining about the job you're stuck in? Now I want you to think about the most important things in your life. Maybe it's your children or grandchildren. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's finally chasing that dream that you've always had. How much energy are the things that really matter to you getting right now? What are the things in your life that are stealing that focus? Is there something in the past that you could let go of so you could focus on the present? Maybe you have toxic relationships in your life that you're still holding on to that steal your energy and are not allowing you to be fully present in the relationships that really matter. Maybe you have a toxic job that drains your energy so much that you can't enjoy your evenings and weekends. Maybe it is past beliefs about yourself that simply are not true. I challenge you to monitor your energy this week. Anytime you feel angry, anxious, stressed, or sad, look at what you're focusing on in that moment. Then ask yourself, what would your life look like if you focused all of your energy you're spending on those things on the things that really matter? I want you to stop and imagine that life for a moment. That is what matters, and that life is what deserves your focus. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you're finding value from this podcast. If you are, I'm asking for 2 huge favors from you this week. Share the episode with one person, and please subscribe to the podcast, both of which will help it grow. New episodes come out each Friday, so I look forward to connecting with you next week. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and keep living sober and happy.